world where reality and memory converge and diverge in the blink of an eye, a phenomenon lurks, bending the fabric of collective recollection. This story begins not with an event, but with a revelation, a shared misremembering so pervasive, it challenges the very nature of our existence. Our journey into the Mandela Effect commences with Fiona Broom's startling realization that Nelson Mandela's death in the 1980s, remembered by thousands, never happened until 2013. As this tale unfolds, we delve into instances where history as we know it and history as we remember it part ways. Imagine a childhood spent in the warm embrace of the Berenstain Bears stories, only to discover that something is just a little off with what you remember so strongly. Or picture yourself humming along to the Oscar Mayer jingle, your heart skipping a beat as you realize the song that you've sang your whole life is a lie. In search of answers, our story ventures into the realms of the extraordinary. Could the Large Hadron Collider, in its quest to unravel the mysteries of the universe, have inadvertently merged parallel dimensions? Is our collective misremembering a glitch in the matrix, a sign of alternate realities brushing against our own? Today, we look at our reality and question just how deceptive it really is.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name's Nick, and with me as always is the gnarly Bert.
Man, we gnarly up in here.
You can't tell me you didn't know that one.
I know gnarly, because it reminds me of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's right. Yeah, gnarly
Everything
is
was
a
gnarly.
total 80s reference.
Exactly. I actually think the turtle from, is it Finding Nemo? Is that what I'm thinking? I'm pretty sure he says gnarly.
Yeah, he does.
Crash?
The surfer turtle.
Is his name Crash? I think it's Crash.
I don't know well enough to say, but I know who you're talking about.
I totally annoy my kids because sometimes I go into his voice for funsies. And I think, honestly, all it does is annoys them.
Well, one of them's probably getting a little old for that, and the other one, well, I don't know. I thought he'd like that, but...
No, everyone finds it annoying except for my youngest, and she's too young to know any better, so... Yeah. Like, they'll be in the kitchen, and I'll be like, "What up, little dude? You having a banana?"
That's really good. They should like that.
And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Bro, it's like totally gnarly, dude."
How could they not like that? That's a performance.
Exactly.
You know?
Well, the problem is I probably do it for like 27 minutes because once I know it annoys somebody, we keep moving on. Like, "Little dude, you sitting on the couch, little dude?" They're like, "Oh my God."
He's like, "Dad, it's been 7 days. It's enough."
"This is how I identify now as a turtle, bro."
Well, you see, he was lifting weights earlier and he dropped one on his head and he's gone back to the 80s.
Exactly. Back to better talk. We was just talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last podcast, Nick.
Yeah, well, I like to have at least one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles talk a week if I can.
That's important because listen, if otherwise Shredder will get ahead. We can't let Shredder get ahead.
You don't want Shredder to win, do you? I don't think so.
Never. He had that cool car too that had the drill bit on the front. Is that right? Am I thinking right?
I think
Teenage
so.
Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Well, yeah, but I mainly remember the turtle van that would shoot pizzas.
Yes.
I can't believe they wasted pizzas like that, though. That doesn't seem like them.
I mean, not with Michelangelo anyway. I know I just watched, what was it? Probably like 4 or 5 episodes of the old cartoon, the old animated series, season 1. And I was telling Jess, I'm like, I'm hooked. And she's like, to a cartoon? I'm like, they actually had storylines back then, and they didn't finish it in one cartoon. So I'm sitting here looking for the other episode to move on because I got to know if they found the growing crystal.
Right. You got to know. You can't leave it at a cliffhanger.
Can't leave it at a cliffhanger. And for all of you that don't know, 4 episodes, the turtle shrank down. And I'm not going to tell you if they grew back to full size or not. You're going to have to go watch yourself.
Yeah, somewhere. YouTube, maybe.
That's where I found it, YouTube.
Yeah. and I'll tell you, that first movie, the first live action movie they came out with, that was some good cinema.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I like that.
It was quality. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There was actually quality movie making back then. And, you know, it's funny because some movies I watch from back then is simply just to, I guess to a degree, look back at the past and go, look at how far we've came. But some movies did things so well that I would rival against things today.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of that. Just 2 days ago, I watched an old sci-fi horror movie called Invaders from Mars. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
That would hold up today. I mean, less swearing, but other than that.
Of course. Well, think about it. Like the Wizard of Oz, right? The tornado scene. I mean, when was the Wizard of Oz? Like 1920s or something? 1930s?
Oh, I don't know if it was that long ago, but it was a while.
It was a long time ago. I bet it was 1920s. I bet.
Man,
or 1930s.
That's hard for me to conceptualize, to be honest.
When did the Wizard of Oz come out? 1939.
That's wild. That's a long
August
time
25th.
ago.
See, listen. And I would say it's just as good as a movie nowadays.
Yeah, probably. I mean, a lot of movies, like we get a lot of trash now too, so.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Pretty much they just drop things just to drop them. Here's a question. Do you know how they made the tornado, Nick?
Just spinning stages, or I don't know.
The tornado that was in the background, because I'm a movie buff, obviously. I have a love for the cinema, and I love to know how they do things. In the movie, they made a wire tornado, and then they put like burlap or like a nylon, some type of material on that was loose fitting. And then they put dust and grime, and then they just spun it around really fast.
You know, I'm going to have to watch that scene again just to appreciate it for what it is, really.
And they had guys at the bottom with ropes that was moving the bottom to make it look like it was moving like a real tornado.
Oh, well, that's neat.
Isn't that crazy?
Did you ever see the sequel to that?
No.
The Return to Oz?
No. You're not allowed to do that, Nick.
Well, it was not as good.
Well, it never is. That's why you never watch the second one ever. The third one, maybe.
I don't know if they got to that or not.
See, that's where they screwed up. They screwed up on the second one. Too bad they couldn't make the third one. The only movie that's good, there's very few movies that's good on the second one.
I know one.
Name it.
Terminator 2. Best in the series. You can't argue that one.
No. I would argue Predator, Rambo, Die Hard, Speed.
They made a Speed 2?
Yeah, I think there's Speed 3, I think.
Wait, so you're saying you would argue against it, like Speed 2 isn't good?
I thought it was fine.
Wait, is it better than the first?
I don't know that it's better than the first. Now, I would say that it'd be really hard for most movies to be better than the first, but they're not so bad that they kill the trilogy. It's at least close to equals what I would call them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Terminator 2 was better than the first one, though. I will say that.
Man, I just love the nostalgia. It's tough.
Know. We all love nostalgia.
My least favorite is when they remake old movies nowadays because they screw them up.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that so much either.
Like RoboCop. That's a great example. They redid that.
That was a mess.
That
That was a mess. I don't even think I finished the whole thing, and that's rare for me.
Sometimes you don't need CG.
No.
You just don't need it.
So I'm a big horror movie buff, and a big thing that's coming around again that was from the 80s is practical effects. And every movie that uses practical effects is a runoff hit in horror movies anyway. That's the way to
That's
do
true.
it.
That's true. Think
Yep.
about it. One of my favorite horror movies, I guess it would fall into probably psychological horror, but Paranormal Activities.
Oh, yeah.
They
That's all practical, really.
All practical. The only, like the first one, the only scene that was not practical was the last scene where her face turned into a demon. That was the only thing. Everything else practical.
Did you see The Void?
No.
Oh, that's a modern horror movie, but it's all practical effects.
Wow.
And it is masterful.
Here's a question. Paranormal Activity. How much do you think that movie cost to produce?
The first one,
Yes.
$60K,
No. Way less.
$6K.
A little bit more. $15,000.
And they did good with that.
$890 million.
Yeah, that's the kind of return on investment that doesn't come along every day, isn't it?
That's a great return on investment. The only movie that I can think of that probably made more, I don't even know if it made more, but maybe The Blair Witch, because The Blair Witch was like a $5,000 budget.
I bet it did make more too, because that's like deep in people's minds. Like,
Oh, big time. Now,
can I tell you something embarrassing about The Blair Witch?
absolutely.
When I finally saw it in theaters, I thought that I bought into the whole thing. I thought it was real.
Do you know
Like,
why?
I thought,
Do you know why
why?
you did that?
Why?
Because they created a website. They created a police file. They created news reports.
Yeah.
The entire
Use the real
movie-
names.
Yes. The entire movie was created with a backstory before they recorded. So they was making it, and you got to think back then it was a lot harder to search for that stuff on the internet. So
Oh, yeah.
more than likely you saw stuff and then you went and saw the movie. Now here's a fun piece of what would they call this? Do you know what their theory, or shoot, what's it called when there's an ulterior theory to what the ending is? Alternate ending, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know who the witch they said was?
Who?
The first guy that disappeared.
Oh, really? Never heard that before.
They believe that he disappeared, and when his friends went to go look for him, he killed them all in that house.
I could run with that.
Yeah, because every single time there was an event that happened, he was never there.
That is true. You know, I think I kind of fell for that for the same reason that older people fall for phone scams now.
Oh, I know.
Because all growing up, anyone who called them was telling the truth. They never had to doubt that.
Correct.
And all my growing up, if something was said seriously, like this is a true story, it was until that moment. That's what ruined my trust. Because after that, I was like, I don't believe anything. Anything.
Well, and that's the tough thing. Even now, like when I'm creating content myself, the stories are always amazing, but you have to dramatize a little bit of it to make it flow better. And that's always the tough thing. Like on my channel, when we talk about, you know, anything that's ghost related, like sometimes the time frame is so short and sometimes it's super long, and you have to, you know, not manipulate or lie in the story, but you have to add a little seasoning, as I like to call it.
Yeah, spice it up a little.
Like the episode that I'm doing this week on my channel, and Nick, you should totally watch this week's. It is on the Perrin family, which is from the Conjuring series.
Oh, okay.
It's the very first episode. There was so much to that story that I did not know. Like flat out did not know. And I was shocked.
Well, I definitely got to catch that.
When I researched that, I'm like, wow, some of it I couldn't even tell on my podcast. Like I just can't
Like
tell
too
it.
gruesome?
Like, not gruesome, but just not good. So
Right. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Now, just for a gruesome standpoint, and then we'll jump into what we're here to do. Everyone's probably like, why are they talking all this length of time? Sorry. Listen.
It all links together, though.
You
don't even realize.
It does? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. It really
I thought you meant
does.
just paranormal. The interesting thing about the Perrin family haunting, and I didn't know this. I don't know how I didn't know this. Apparently, one of the scariest things, in my opinion, is they went to get an orange, just a standard old orange from the kitchen, and it started
so far
bleeding.
not scared. Oh, wait, is that one of them blood oranges?
It was for them. I'm like, if I saw that, I'd be like, nope, moving out. But they couldn't move out because they lost all their money buying the house. You know how many ghost stories that's like the main story?
Oh, man, 20 years from now, all the stories are going to be like that, because I don't know about where you live, but here, you're stuck. Houses are too expensive to move to another one. That's all there is to it.
Like the Perrin family, they literally spent their entire life savings getting this house, and then things started happening like right away. But here's listen, they shouldn't have done some things, because the guy that gave them the keys when they were moving in was like, for the sake of your family, leave the lights on at night. I'm like, that's the first indicator there's a problem there.
Like, you think I'm made of money? That's electricity.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. Kind of a crazy story. So for anyone, obviously, as you can tell, this is a Nick week. I have no clue what the story is.
That's right.
Is this I don't even know how long the file is. I didn't even look at that, Nick.
That's around standard size.
For you or for me?
For me.
Okay. So probably around 10 minutes.
Yep. Almost right on. We're in the 9 area, I think.
The question is, how much are we going to jibber jabber and turn a 10-minute clip into however long?
I think quite a bit.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of things to talk about in this one.
I'll tell you, and without giving too much away, we've already talked about it a lot in the moments that we've been recording already, and you don't realize it. In fact, we've shown symptoms of what we're going to talk about in other episodes, probably almost every episode.
Dang it, Nick. So I play this little game for anyone that doesn't know. Since I don't know what Nick's is, I always wear a shirt where I think it might be. And this week I didn't know. So I wore one with Bigfoot and with an alien on it. I'm like, I'm going to hit it, by God.
You're doubling down, but you haven't. You haven't.
I wore the wrong shirt. I've got them all over there, Nick. I might grab it.
So,
oh man,
I want you to get what we're talking about. You're going to know this episode as soon as you hear what it is. You're going to know. But I thought it would be fun for us to discuss. And part of this episode, I'm going to explain almost scientifically why we all have this nostalgia that we're always into. What's the source of the strong nostalgia that we have these days?
Oh, I bet I know what this is, Nick.
I think you do. Do you want to hear the first part and find out?
Yes. I so do, Nick.
Yeah, you know it.
I'm going to guess, but let's go.
Back in 2009, experienced researcher and published author Fiona Broome dropped a bombshell on our understanding of the nature of reality. She and a number of her colleagues somehow had firm memories that Nelson Mandela had passed away back in the 80s, when the reality was that he actually left us in the year 2013. This weird mix-up pointed to something very unsettling, a strange glitch where our shared memories don't line up with what actually happened in history. As this odd revelation sank in, it felt like they were peeling back the layers of an unbelievably deep well of mystery. The unsettling idea that what we all remember might be off kilter wiggled its way into our minds. It was like a dark tale unfolding, suggesting that our understanding of the past might not be as straightforward as we thought, where history itself twisted and turned in a seriously eerie way. Over time, cases have been unearthed time and time again. Join us as we dig deep into these events and into the nature of the universe itself as we investigate the Mandela Effect.
So, did you know what it was?
Soon, yes. I can't believe that we've not covered this yet, because I feel like we do cover a big portion of this in almost the bulk of our episodes.
I know, and a lot of the theories that we come up with for other things, this sort of explains a lot of that, and we're going to get into that later. But have you ever experienced the Mandela Effect?
All the time.
All the time. Now,
all the time.
I kind of, and it's not in the narrative, but I almost think that deja vu is a kind of Mandela effect too. Like it's somehow peripherally related. Do you ever get deja vu?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally all the time. I bet I have at least deja vu at least once a month.
Yeah, I think it would be the same for me. And I think most people do. Like it's such a common thing. But what do you think causes that kind of thing? Like, have you thought, like, what is deja vu? How come I'm feeling this way so frequently?
I have a lot of different theories on the Mandela effect. Like a lot of theories. I don't know that I've pinpointed them down. While we was talking, I was looking for something also, because I literally I feel like I said this on this podcast. I don't know, because I talk so much stuff. I don't know where I talk it at. But there was a really, really good theory that I read relatively recently.
Oh, yeah?
And it was so good. I don't know if you're going to cover it. Are you covering a theory that a boy gave?
That a boy gave?
Yes. Like a 13 or 15-year-old boy.
Does it have anything to do with the Cold War?
No.
Then no, probably not. Do you want to go into it?
Let me see if I can find it first.
Okay. I remember having deja vu. Man, I think for me, it felt like it started at a certain time and then it never stopped. Like I never had it before I was like 15 or so, or old enough that I wasn't a kid that had to be taken everywhere. And then after that, it just happened all the time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different people that there's like a portion of their life where it hits for them.
Right. And then it
and
stays.
And then it just sticks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I would say that's probably true. There's something to that. But I'm telling you right now, this one theory that I saw, it was explained so well. What's your favorite current Mandela effect that you believe is exactly as it was? But you see it one way, but it's completely different.
Oh, man, there's so much. And since I did so much research for this one, it's really difficult. And I don't want to give away any of the ones I did. But I'm looking at a list right now. Let me see what some good ones were. Oh, here's a good one. Do you remember, again, back in the 80s, there was this fella named Ed McMahon who used to present people checks where they won a contest. Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was always on. What was it?
It was Publishers Clearinghouse.
Right, and that's how I remember it. And that's how many people remember it. But it wasn't. Do you believe this?
It was definitely Publishers Clearinghouse.
He worked for a company called American Family Publishers, and he never handed anyone's checks. His face was simply on the envelopes. Is that not a huge one? Because I specifically remember in my mind him doing that.
He would walk up to the door and knock, and they would always have that large check.
Yeah, and he had a little microphone that he carried with him and all this stuff like that. But he never worked for them. It was American Family Publishers.
That doesn't make any sense. I specifically remember it as a kid. They used to do in fact, someone in my family did those, and I can't remember who, but somebody, that's exactly what happened. Is they would go to the door with a large check, they would knock, everyone always acts surprised. Because the first thing I always thought is, how does no one not see these people going to the door with this large van? They always went in a large van too. I remember it clear as day.
I do too. And Ed McMahon, and we both remember the same company name that it wasn't.
Correct. Did
So
you
weird,
look up
right?
to see Publishers Clearinghouse if they did something similar? Maybe it's like a similar thing?
That's my suspicion. I'm not looking at it right now. But here's another one. You know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yes.
What did she say to get advice from her mirror?
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Are you talking about the mother?
The wicked witch, or the stepmother, the wicked stepmother. What'd she
Is that
say?
the one, mirror, mirror on the wall? Who's the fairest of them all? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Do you know she didn't say that?
What did she say?
It was
I have
always
to be close.
magic mirror on the wall.
No, she did not. That's a lie. She did not. That did not happen.
It did. And I also remember it exactly the way that you said it. Isn't that weird?
She would go, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest one of all?
Yeah. Now that one I verified because I couldn't believe it. And and that's how it is.
Crazy.
It's magic mirror on the wall.
For life of me, I cannot find this one. So I'm just going to probably butcher this. Someone's going to look it up later and they're going to be like, man, he butchered this, but whatever. Sorry. There's a theory that went around for the Mandela effect. And this boy, it was genius because if you look at a lot of the Mandela effects, it all occurred after a very specific thing was created. And that very specific thing was the CERN Hadron Collider.
That is actually one of the theories we're going into.
Did a boy give it?
It did not say. It did not say.
Then I am going to hold off because if it is the boy's theory, it's a really good theory.
When we get to that part, I think you can go into what you know about it because it's very brief. Because we just present a couple theories about it, but that is one of them. But I feel like you have more information on that.
There was a video that I just watched recently. In fact, I showed the video to Jess. I'm going to look for it. I don't know if you know this or not, but this was like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But there was a woman and she put out this video about the Mandela effect.
Right.
And she didn't really care about the Mandela effect until one day, one thing absolutely blew her mind. And that was Fruit of the Loom.
Oh, we're going to go into that one too.
Do you know the video I'm talking about?
I do.
Okay. Well,
There's some updated, there's some updated information on that too that you may or may not be aware of.
I do know.
Oh yeah.
I know the end result of it.
Okay. We'll go into that a bit later. See, you know all the top ones because they're pretty big. Let me give you some other smaller ones and see if, because I should have done the whole episode where I'm quizzing you on them. So I'm going to do a lot of that, even though that's not in the script here. So Do you know The Silence of the Lambs, that movie?
Yes.
What's the creepy line everyone remembers when he meets Clarice Starling? What does he say?
Hello, Clarice.
Are you sure?
Yes.
He never said that.
What are you talking about? He did say that.
I know, I remember it too. But if you go back through the movie, the closest he ever says was good morning.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That's impossible.
Everyone remembers that.
How did we all make that up?
I know. That's what I'm saying about all this stuff.
And you looked all these up?
Yep. Not the first one I said to you, but the following ones I did.
Literally, all I had to do was type in hello, and the very first thing that popped up on Google, hello,
Yeah.
Clarice.
Yep. It's the famous line. The next
How
one.
is that a thing? That blows my mind.
The next one hurts my head because when this song comes on, I can never let it go without doing this last part myself. Freddie Mercury, Queen, We Are the Champions. The song ends with, he goes, we are the champions. And then I always remember it. There's a long pause. And he says, of the world.
Of the world.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Never happened. Not in any versions of the song.
We are the champions. No time for losers. 'Cause we are the champions.
Of the world. And it hurts me. And it hurts me that I'm not supposed to sing that part. Because it never happened.
You know how many times I've always sang it that way?
Every time I've sang it that way.
Every single time. That's the words.
I remember.
Dude, these last two are hurting my head already.
It does
I'm
hurt.
looking this up too.
It does hurt. And I've listened to this song since. And it hurts.
We are the champ. Did he do that specifically at an event or something that he didn't do somewhere else?
I wondered that, but I haven't been able to find any way to verify that. I kind of want to go back and watch that movie again that they made with Rami Malek and see if they put that in there. But I've been singing it that way my whole life, ever since Wayne's World came out, the first Wayne's World.
This blows my mind. It says most of us will sing "We Are the Champions of the World," and that's even written if you look up the lyrics online. When you listen to the song, however, you'll realize Freddie Mercury never actually says "of the world." Man, this episode's going to tick me off. I can already see
it. Physically hurts, doesn't it?
It does for multiple reasons, because the last two, I didn't know the last two Mandela effects. Like, I think everyone knows some of them, like the Berenstain Bears one. Everyone knows that one. In
case you're not familiar, that's coming up too, but don't worry about that.
That blows my mind.
There's some real blockbuster ones that are coming up. Like, in the narrative, I'm going over the top ones, like the biggest ones that you can't miss. But let me give you another one. Like, I didn't watch a lot of this show, and you maybe didn't either because it was before our time. But I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
What's the thing that Ricky always used to say when he'd come home and there was like a big mess or something like that?
Man, I gotta think on this.
I can tell
Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
That's exactly how I remember it. Never said that. Closest he ever says was "splain that if you can." Closest he ever said to that. Isn't that wild?
That is such a lie. That is such a lie. That just tells me, first off, here's the thing. In the great words of George W. Bush, okay, fool me once, shame on me. but you ain't never gonna fool me again. Okay, that's what he said.
Or did he?
Okay.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Or did he? Exactly.
X-Files music plays.
If you remember it in Canada that way, Canadian land, as I like to put it, and I remember it here in the States, the
Right.
last three we remember exactly the same.
In every detail. I had exactly in front of me what you were going to say. Because I knew
That
it.
blows my... Because here's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
I remember I Love Lucy. We watched it some when I was growing up. Not a ton, a little bit. But, like, not even watching it that much, I knew that line.
Yeah, me too.
Lucy, you got some splaining to do. Like, I remember that clear as day. And if it was in just one episode, I don't know that I would remember it. I feel like that would had to have been a catchphrase of some
Like
sort.
one of their things that they always did. Like every time he come home, he was probably like, Lucy, you got some splaining to do. No, never
Right.
said it once in all the episodes.
That's malarkey.
Here's one I'm not sure of. And this one only you can verify. Well, not only you, but only an American can verify. This one seems like it's probably not true. But the number of the United States, a lot of people recall learning that there were 51 or 52 in school. Does that sound familiar at all?
No.
Because there's only 50, right?
Yeah, there's only 50.
Yeah, a lot of people claim that they learned there was 51 or 52. I got no opinion on this one whatsoever.
They went to special schools, probably. They couldn't count, maybe.
That could be.
Because it's
That could
always
be.
been 50. Now, there was a point in time where I think in all, at least in my generation, where we all talked about the original 13.
Right.
But then it kind of went from those 13 to the 50 states. And then you memorize the 50 states. First off, if you remember 51 or 52, where'd the other state or two go?
Yeah, and what were they
It just doesn't
called?
disappear. Yeah, that doesn't.
Yeah. No, I
don't
didn't think that
remember
one
that.
was realistic because I'm from Canada and I know how many states
Yeah.
you've got. Number one, it's way too many. I don't know how you memorize them all. But 50 is a good number. You wouldn't have 51 or 52. Wouldn't make sense.
You put a map up for most people of the United States, go to the opposite side of the United States and point and say, what state is this? I bet 40% of the population couldn't tell you.
Did you know that there's a trick that some people use to find out where Kentucky is?
There's a trick.
Yeah, if you look at the map, there's a little guy holding a plate of fried chicken, and that's Kentucky.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, that one, we're going to strike that out of there. But let's go on to this one. And then maybe we can go into more of the recording. But do you remember there was someone who played a genie in a movie called Shazam?
Yes.
Do you remember who
Are you
that
talking
was?
about the Shaq movie?
Nope.
Because Shaq had a movie that I think he was a genie. Was he a genie? I think
Yeah,
was a genie.
he was. And that one was called Kazam.
Yes, Kazam. That's it. Yep. Are you talking about that one?
No, I'm talking about another one that a lot of people remember, and maybe you don't. It was called Shazam, and it had Sinbad the comedian playing a genie. You remember that one?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that one I remember, but that one's also not correct.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. Has Sinbad commented on that at all? He seems like the kind of guy that would make a comment about it.
He said he doesn't remember it if it happened.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But no, that's a lot of the, I mean, there's so many of these. There's literally hundreds, maybe thousands of them. But we should cover a couple of really big ones from history. Like maybe
From history.
Yeah. We'll look into the Mandela Effect, but then another one that you might be familiar with. You want to listen to that?
Yes.
All right, put those on.
To fully understand the depth of this mystery, we need to investigate some famous examples of the Mandela effect on historic events. As we discussed earlier, the term Mandela effect itself is named after the collective misremembering of Nelson Mandela's death. Many people incorrectly recall him dying in prison during the 80s, while he was released in the 90s and passed away in 2013. The confusion and misremembering regarding Mandela's death became a widespread phenomenon. Many individuals vividly recall news coverage, protests, and even Mandela's funeral during the 80s. This is quite a number of highly covered events for so many people to completely fabricate from thin air. Most historical occurrences that have since been chronicled of the Mandela effect aren't as serious as the one that first caught our attention. These many other occurrences remain very widespread in the public consciousness. For example, when Sally Field won an Oscar in 1985, her acceptance speech included a very famous line.
"You like me. You really, really like me,"
she exclaimed excitedly. This is how we all remember it. However, in reality, what she said was,
"And I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me."
If you remember it the first way, you aren't alone. You can hear compilations on YouTube of famous people in media quoting it exactly as you remember. How could so many people be wrong?
So you had a big reaction to that one.
Because I remember that.
Mm-hmm. You remember it the other way.
You know what, though? Someone else said that same exact line, and I feel like they was imitating that moment. And I'm trying to remember.
I'm glad you said that.
It was like was it a cartoon maybe?
Well, probably one you're thinking of was Bugs Bunny did it once.
Yes.
Animaniacs, Dot from it did that all the time.
Yes.
So before...
Were they paying homage?
Yeah, to that moment as they remembered it. I watched a compilation on YouTube preparing for this video. And there was no less than 40. I stopped after that because I was getting bored of hearing the same thing over and over again. But 40 pieces of media where they said, "You like me. You really, really like me." And that's how all these people in the motion picture business heard it. That's how all these people in TV heard it. That movie with Jim Carrey, The Mask, he did it. They did it wrong. Everyone remembers it differently. It's recorded in at least 40, 50 pieces of media different, but that's how she said it.
Yeah, it's weird to me that would be so prevalent with other people remembering it. And that's the thing. Like, I remember the cartoon, and I think it was Bugs Bunny, I believe. Because didn't he grab somebody?
Tiny Toons
no,
also did it.
he did it on a stage. I think he did it on a stage, and they were throwing roses up to Bugs Bunny, and he's like, "They love me. They really, really love me."
Yep, that was in
That's
relation
crazy.
to that. And everyone remembers it that way. Everyone. I talked to a bunch of people. No one remembers it any other way.
Yeah, see, that's weird to me. That there's something up with this whole Mandela effect thing, and I'm not...
Yeah.
There's so many theories. I don't know which one I fall into, but that 13-year-old kid one, he's like 13, 15 years old. Like, he's a smart cuss, too.
Oh, I'd say.
But man, that one's a crazy one, and I could almost see that happening.
Now, the skeptic side of me on some of these wants to say, well, right after it happened, someone imitated it wrong once, and everyone's actually imitating the imitation. But I don't know. It's so widespread, right?
And there's a lot of them. Like, again, like, let's use, for example, and that's why I was thinking the cartoons, I'm like, maybe that's where everyone got it from. That's where my mind was going. And that's why I asked you, was they're like basically paying homage to her for that. That's crazy to me. None of it makes sense. And the ones that we've already covered that I did not know blows my mind. The Sinbad one, not so much, because I don't remember that one.
Yeah. That's a pretty popular one, though. A lot of people do, which is weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
So on the Sally Field acceptance speech one, there's sort of like a part B to that. Most people remember her name as Sally Fields, but it's actually Sally Field. So,
what?
Yep. You can look that up anywhere you want. It's Sally Field.
There's something up with this whole entire thing, Nick.
I know, right? It's just too much to be normal, right?
Yeah, none of it makes any kind of sense at all.
So here's one, and it's kind of a sad one, but I'm going to go into it anyway since it was kind of old. But have you seen, since you're into like a lot of different mystery stuff like I am, people covering the Lindbergh baby that was never found?
Yes.
Well, that's not a mystery at all. The baby was found. They sentenced the killer to death for the heinous crime, and it happened all really quickly. But everyone remembers it as the baby went missing, was never found.
Wait, it was found?
Yep, almost right after the case started. But everyone remembers the case going cold.
Yeah, I didn't think they ever found the killer on that.
That's what everyone thinks, and we've got people making podcasts about this. But they actually knew who did it and sentenced them to death. Like, how many times have you seen that on a mystery show or a podcast or in a book?
Yes. I'm looking at something here real quick.
Yep.
Because
you've got doubt on this one, huh?
Well, I put in ChatGPT because I was curious if it would say, and it's like, yes, Charles Lindbergh Jr. was found. Unfortunately, he was discovered deceased.
Mm-hmm.
The discovery occurred about 2 months after the kidnapping in 1932.
Yep.
How is that possible?
I've not heard that once in all the mystery shows and books and podcasts that I've read. But now it's common knowledge, right? And this is a major historical event. Everyone remembers this, but they all remember it wrong.
That doesn't make any sense.
2 months, Bert, is not a cold case at all. That's the regular run of an investigation.
Shoot, back then it took 1 month just to prove something's gone.
How did we come to this conclusion when everything happened so quickly? What would lead us to that conclusion? Unless it happened one way and then it changed.
It'd be different if there was like such a collection of people that did not agree.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't ever remember hearing that the baby was ever found.
Nope, but it's every source on the internet. You can find it anywhere now.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, so major historical event, all wrong about. And nothing even unusual about it. Regular crime, little more famous, didn't take long to solve. Isn't that wild?
That's wild. See, this is the kind of stuff that blows my mind and makes me think that there's something we're missing in life.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because it's so weird.
It is killing my soul that you have to wait to hear the second explanation, which is my favorite and will explain, I think, so many parts of our lives. But that's not for a while yet.
Boy, nothing like Nick just hitting us with some sweet knowledge and going, but you can't have it yet.
You can't have it yet. I pull it back.
Hey, kids, do you like Christmas time? You know, Santa time is coming around in 11 months. That's Nick.
Take that, kids.
That's totally Nick right now.
I pictured it a little less mean, where like you're fishing and you're pulling in the lure just a little bit at a time, just dragging that fish in. But
that's a good analogy too.
What I can offer you in exchange for your patience is a couple more of these that are really big that you might be surprised about. Would you like
fair.
to hear
I'll
a
take
couple
what I
big
get,
ones?
Nick.
Yeah, let's roll that. See if you recognize these. One of them's the biggest one ever, I think.
Wow. That's bold right there. Bold prediction coming. You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, yeah.
The Mandela Effect appears very frequently in our consumer culture. Things we bought, sold, ate, and used for much of our lives on a daily basis changed from what we collectively remember. We had such familiarity with these items, it's hard to imagine we all remember it incorrectly. For example, many of us grew up reading and being read a very popular children's book series. That book series was the Berenstain Bears, which is 786 different items and was in 300 million homes and schools. With that kind of cultural coverage, we'd surely know the title, or would we? Contrary to what people remember, the Berenstain Bears with an E is actually the Berenstain Bears with an A. A lot of us have fond memories of childhood parties and long summers. Ever present at these events was the one thing all children love: hot dogs. The king of the hot dog was clearly the Oscar Mayer hot dog. It even had a jingle you can probably still remember. But are you remembering it correctly? Do you remember it as Oscar Mayer with an E? Then you are remembering it how the rest of us do, and you are wrong. It is actually Oscar Mayer with an A. Of course, no one, not even the company, pronounces it that way. For some people, having peanut butter is a part of a morning ritual. Do you remember Jiffy peanut butter? An incredibly popular brand. Well, no, you do not. Supposedly, it's always been just Jif peanut butter. There are literally hundreds of products suffering the same problems in the public consciousness. Do you remember others?
So, I'm a little bit of a jerk here. I promised you one of the biggest ones ever. I got my parts mixed up, so I just led you along again.
Or Nick, in post, we can flip them around.
Oh, yeah, forget I just said that. Nah, it's fine.
Just saying, we can edit it, Nick, if you'd prefer.
Nah, that's all right. We'll go. When I make a mistake, I'm going to own it.
If Bert makes a mistake, you're never going to know.
and I'm okay with that too.
Oh, man, I live life on the edge.
You had some reactions to a couple of those.
I did. I can't repeat some of them, Nick.
Can you do it in a washed version?
Lie to the people? Is that what you mean?
Make it more digestible.
Yeah, lie to them. On the Jiffy, that's malarkey. It's always been Jiffy.
Isn't it? I remember it that way too.
I feel like there's Jiffy now.
We could look it up and find out. I think there's not. I mean, I feel like it was always Jiffy.
I'm looking this up.
The subtitle of this episode is the one where we have to look up everything as we do it.
That's crazy. I even remember Jiffy being on the jar and it being spelled with a Y.
I remember it on the table and on the counter in my house. I remember it like I remember there being chairs there, like I remember everything.
Logo says, used to say Jiffy. The peanut butter never existed. The widespread false memory of the peanut butter label saying Jiffy can be in fact, I remember, I want to say there was yellow in the label. It was like JIF. Then there was like yellow and man, that's crazy.
Isn't it crazy?
Again, I can't say what I said when that one popped up, but
I heard malarkey. I think that's what I heard. So
it was malarkey. Yeah.
yeah. So the hot dog one, and I don't like the way the narrator says hot dog, by the way. It's real weird. But do you remember that one? Do you remember the song the kid used to sing?
Oh, yeah.
Now, I played the song back, and I was going to put it in this narration, but it's really grating. It's annoying. That kid's voice is annoying. But I played the song back a number of times, and when he was spelling it out, he was going M-A-Y-E-R. He always had this weird accent on the A, almost like it was edited in, sort of like we can do nowadays. It was like O-S-C-A-R-M-A-Y-E-R. And then I got real deep into it, and I blew up the image. And when he says the A, his mouth fills with like a weird editing, like teeth or something. I think it's been edited. I don't know. It's something weird about that one.
I think there's something weird with all of them.
Right. Yeah, me too. Because I remember these, just like, how could so many people be wrong? I know I've said that 40 times, but
I don't think that there is all these people being wrong. I really don't.
yeah, something's happening. Something
has happened.
Yeah, something. Yeah,
And
that's
the
a better way of
question-
saying it. Something has happened.
Correct. Because that kind of thing's just not something that just randomly occurs.
Right.
Like if 50 people was like, hey, I remember this thing happening, like fill in the blank.
Right.
Nah, you're just remembering wrong. But when countless people remember,
Well,
that's a completely different thing.
like the narration said, the Berenstain Bears, they had 700 and something publications, and it was in 300 million houses and schools. I had like 3 of these books. I'm sure you had 1 or 2. Like,
For sure.
how could none of us have noticed that? Like, it seems crazy.
Well, I have some theories on that, Nick.
Yeah.
But, hey.
Okay. Yeah, so, and there was so many more of those, like, just looking at this page here, like different things you'd see on products. Like, what's a good example of that? Some more here.
Like, you mean like everyday products?
Yeah, like stuff we would have had all the time. Trying to think right now.
The Jiffy one's a pretty big one.
Yeah, that's a pretty big one. Here, there's some I don't agree with here. A lot of people remember that the Flintstones had the T and the S, or had an extra T in it. Or, sorry. A lot of people remember the Flintstones being Flinstones.
I don't.
No, I don't either. It's the Flintstones with the T on it. So that shows we can disagree. Most people remember, this isn't a product, but C3PO. Like,
Yes.
I always remember him being completely gold. Like, how do you,
I remember him being white or like silver.
one whole color?
I mean, he had accents that were blue. He had the red light.
We're remembering it differently. What both of us are wrong. He was one solid color, except for his right leg was the opposite color. So I thought he was all gold. He had one silver leg. You thought he was all silver. He would have one leg that was different.
What?
Yep. I don't
Because
remember
this-
that at all.
Oh, wait a second. Do I have him confused? Which one is it? The little guy or the big guy?
The big guy.
Oh, I
Here.
remember him as being gold.
Yep, me too. But do you remember him? I'm going to put this in Discord right now. You remember him as the first or the second?
The first.
Me too. But he wasn't always had that silver leg.
What?
Yep.
But he's gold, right?
All the rest of him except for that one leg.
But his little companion buddy, it was white, correct? Or
Yeah, he
silver,
was like,
correct?
His little buddy, I think, was like white and blue and stuff like that. But this is just about him. Like, I don't remember his
I don't ever
leg
remember
being-
him having a silver leg.
No, I remember him being all gold. But if you go back and watch it now, you'll see the difference. How about...
You know what?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think I even had a Star Wars toy.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a free one, and I screwed up and I got in a little bit of trouble. I closed the envelope before you could put the money in. Anyway, I wanted to get that character, and even then I don't remember him having a silver leg.
No, my cousin had a toy of him, and I distinctly remember it being all gold.
Also, mom and dad, you easily, and I learned this as an adult, you could have easily put it over top of our old pots of water and lifted the thing up. But you was trying to teach me a lesson, and I did not get a toy out of it.
Did you learn a lesson?
He was like, well, once you seal it, it's done. You screwed up. Listen, I'm an adult now, and I know that's false.
Bert, I
And I
can't...
still remember it.
Everything I know about your mom and your dad, they're kind-hearted folks that would never do anything wrong. I think this is a Mandela effect that you're remembering wrong.
I remembered exactly the way it was because I got a toy. I feel like I got the toy in the mail, which I don't know how, but I got it. And then you had to like ship money to get the other one. And I remember I was so excited as a kid. I put the thing in the envelope, but then I sealed the envelope. And they're like, well, we can't put the money in there now, son. Yeah, I remember this. Listen, I'm not holding any grudges. Listen, when we look at retirement homes, listen, all the good ones are taken.
I sealed the envelope too soon. I got you the bad one.
You sealed the envelope too soon. Listen, now we got to deal with what we got. Listen,
Oh, no.
hey, listen,
That's so bad.
things come back around full circle.
You can never know the kind of small things will have a huge impact on your life, I guess.
That was traumatic to me because I wanted that toy so bad.
You could probably get it
I
now.
had a chance to get, I mean, for how much? I feel like that I've got a collector's edition of Star Wars toys upstairs. And it was an exclusive from Target. Listen, I like Star Wars plenty enough. Not enough to collect for myself. But it had all the three robots. The one from the newest one that looks like a beach ball. I forget what his name is. But
BB-8.
it had all three. Yeah. And it's literally just a Target exclusive. And I'm like, one day this is going to be worth a lot of money. I don't even think he has a silver leg.
I'm having a hard time even getting this out. Someone's going to hear this episode and they're going to be like, look, Bert, I've got that toy. Seeing how it means so much to you, I'll send it to you. But you've got to mail me this barcode and 45 cents.
I know.
And then you're going to go do it. And he's going to be like, oh, man, I'd love to send you this, but I just got the barcode. You sealed the envelope and you didn't put 45 cents.
That's about right. Listen, that's my life.
He's like, I guess you got to wait another 20 years.
Gotta wait another one. Yeah, no doubt. I was so young too. That was so traumatic to me. I remember to this.
No.
I'm probably gonna need like a shrink to help me through this, Mom and Dad.
Oh no, we've dug up
This is
some
not
stuff.
my fault.
We've dug up some stuff
We
here.
really did. Listen, that bothers me to this day. At my current
To this
age, it
very
bothers
day.
me to this day.
Well, since we're on the topic
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll let you go on about your trauma a little more first before I get into this.
All I was going to say, and I was going to end it, is the traumatic part is I got in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Not really trouble, but they're like, see, you shouldn't have sealed that envelope. And then the second part was, I didn't even get the toy.
That's a rough childhood, man. I don't know.
Yep. I heard the retirement homes don't have sponge baths anymore.
Oh. I will say one thing. If you had gotten the toy, you could run upstairs and grab it and look at it if it had a silver leg or not.
For sure. Like, I've got the new one that's the Target exclusive one.
Does it have a silver leg?
I don't think it does.
Okay. You know what?
I honestly don't think it does.
We'll update on that next episode, maybe.
I will take a photo and put it on our social media.
Even better. Even better. Are we going to be shocked?
Because
Tune in.
I'm like 95% sure it doesn't have. Because I would have looked at it and been like, why is this leg silver for? Is it like a Target thing?
When you see these pictures side by side, and I tell you that, that's all I can see now is that super out of place leg.
Yeah, it stands right out.
Yeah, but I don't remember it being that way.
Does it look like his kneecaps are really short in that photo?
Yeah, it kind of does. Kind of does.
Yeah, it looks like his body's way too big for his legs.
Well, he did kind of hobble around weird too, so maybe that's
really
why.
Kind of like this.
Yeah, like he wasn't put together right well.
No.
But
apparently not. He's got a silver leg that no one remembers.
yeah, how could you find 95% of a robot and not find him a leg or paint it?
Correct.
Paint
Yeah,
it. Come
that
on,
makes
man.
zero sense. Is that part of the storyline? Did they say that's part of the storyline, or that's just the way he looks?
I assume it must be in the news stories, but I don't remember anything about this.
I don't ever remember this.
No.
I've got a buddy of mine. That's all he does is collect Star Wars
Well,
stuff.
he can tell us then.
Yeah. I'm about to text him right now as we go on to the next part.
Yeah. Well, in the next part, it's that big one that I promised you, and it's related to this.
It's related to this?
Yep. Part of it, anyway. Would you like to hear it?
I would. I want to know what's going on.
All right. Well, let's roll the footage.
Some of the most popular examples of the Mandela Effect show up in popular media like blockbuster movies. Star Wars, for example, is probably one of the largest cultural media events of our lifetimes. One of the most dramatic events occurs when Darth Vader has Luke Skywalker cornered after an epic lightsaber battle. Imagine now the famous line, "Luke, I am your father." This is how most people remember it, but it apparently never happened that way. The real line was,
"You the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father."
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
Casablanca stands as an iconic film in the annals of cinema. Despite the passage of many decades and an increasing number of people who have yet to experience it, the renowned line, "Play it again, Sam," remains etched in cultural memory. Without even seeing it, would you be surprised to learn that that line never appears at all in the film despite hundreds of TV shows and movies referencing it since? The actual line is quite different.
Play it once, Sam. For all time's sake.
I don't know what you mean, Miss Elsa.
Play it, Sam. Play as time goes by.
Oh, I can't remember it, Miss Elsa. I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
These are a couple of the huge examples, however many more exist. It boggles the mind how common and widespread the Mandela Effect can be. What is going on here?
That's
two of the biggest question. What really is going on here?
That's two of the biggest movies in all of history.
Yeah.
Like, I hear people who have no concept that that movie even exists who say, "Play it again, Sam." You know?
Oh, for sure.
And Star Wars, people have been obsessed about that forever. And most people think it's Luke, I am your father. Nope.
Well, that's what everyone says. Here's the thing. Like, I remember everyone saying it, but I don't remember the movie line. So I can't be one to be like, yeah, that's definitely how I remember it.
Yeah.
I only remember seeing the movie once as a kid, and I think my dad was watching it. And that's the only time I remember the actual movie.
The funny thing is I remember people coming out of the movie or seeing people come out of a movie on news clips and stuff like that as they exit saying, Luke, I am your father, right after seeing it, and people getting mad at them in the crowd. Like,
that's crazy.
Like, so that's weird. That is weird. I think for me, the Casablanca one is bigger though, because I've always heard it. Play it again, Sam. And it's not even a woman saying it. It's the man saying it that everyone quotes.
Which is weird because, like, again, this is one that I can't necessarily remember one way or the other. Like, obviously, I know the line, but I don't, as a person, I don't remember the line in the movie one way or the other.
Where you've probably mostly heard it from, and we've sort of established this earlier, is from Bugs Bunny, probably. Because he would always flip a coin to someone and say in a Humphrey Bogart voice, not this lady's voice, play it again, Sam. Like,
that's right.
Never happened.
I think you are right on that.
And that's in
it's crazy.
All kinds of media. That's not just people talking about it.
Yeah. Again, it blows my mind that there's these series of things that so many people remember to the point to where they're quoting it in other media.
Yeah. And there's researchers. People are hired to be researchers on these things. Like, that's a job.
Yeah.
So
it blows my mind.
Yeah. There's just too much. And we're not even touching the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. Like, this would be a 40-hour episode if we went into like every single occurrence. Like,
listen, it could be a 40 episode. If you want, Nick, we can make it 40 episodes.
Well, maybe we have to start a whole separate podcast on this, just tracking it. Let me quiz you on a couple other things while we have it here. Okay, here's a good one to start with. The cereal Fruit Loops. How was that spelled?
Well, I know this Mandela Effect.
Okay.
So I can't give a fair answer. I knew this.
How do you remember it then? Do you remember the new way or the old way?
I remember the new way.
Okay.
But that's me. When I was a kid, I don't know that we would have bought the actual Fruit Loops.
Probably like Fruit Circles or something like that. Or?
Yeah, Fruit Circles is probably what we would have got.
Yeah.
So as an adult, I remember seeing Fruit Loops and spelled obviously the new way. But I've heard everyone say the Mandela Effect version. So that one I know just from everyone else.
Yeah, I remember it the original way. In fact, my earliest memories of it were we'd go camping and we'd get those little, those tiny boxes of cereal, and there's like 6 of them stuck together.
Oh,
and me and my brother, of course, obviously wanted Fruit Loops. And I distinctly remember it being Fruit instead of Froot. Because that's the kind of thing my little mind would have been like, what? What? Why are they doing that?
That's stupid.
Yeah. Like that. Yeah, that's a crazy one.
That would have been a little weird. Yeah. Especially with you and your inquisitive mind, you would have definitely asked that question.
You know how many questions I ask now? I was irritating as a child. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for putting up with that. Well, how about maybe you know this one as well, but maybe you remember it differently. Looney Tunes. We talked about this a couple times. How was that spelled?
I know this Mandela Effect too, but I do remember it the old way. Mm-hmm. Which, if you think about it, the new way doesn't make any sense. Why would it be spelled that way?
Like, what explain for the people who...
Like the musical tunes versus cartoons.
Right. So...
Like, depending on how you remember it, which any of you, before we tell you what the answer is, what is it you remember?
Yeah,
Put in the comments down below.
What do you remember?
We're going to give you 5 seconds to figure it out, but I remember it very specifically the old way.
Me too. And here we go. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
And the answer is, Nick?
It is now spelled Tunes. However, most of us remember it Toons for cartoons.
Correct.
Which also the company must have had a brain problem, because that's how they remembered it when they made Tiny Toons.
Correct.
Right? Misremembered their own property.
Correct.
Now, have you heard how they justify it to be spelled Toons?
No.
Well, they say, it was a sister show to another one called Merry Melodies. So they had Merry Melodies and Looney Tunes.
I do remember the melodies.
Yep.
I do remember that.
I do too. But at the same time, I don't remember it being Tunes.
Oh, yeah. I don't ever remember. I always remember it being Toons.
Yeah, because there was only a very vague connection between the two.
Correct.
So
there wasn't a lot of overlap.
No. So here's one, and I'm kind of iffy about this one. Do you remember the Monopoly Man?
Yes.
Monocle or no monocle?
He does not have a monocle.
You are correct. He doesn't. But a lot of people remember him having a monocle. And looking at the picture now, it seems to me I've seen him that way too. But he did not have a monocle.
I'm curious if what everyone is thinking about is there was a guy with a monocle. He was oftentimes drawn like that also. Who was that?
There was a cartoon guy and his wife that always had monocles, and they were always dropping them when they got surprised.
Yes, it was the really short guy that had the monocle.
Yeah, big nose guy.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be what people are thinking of.
I'm curious if people's confusing it.
Yeah. So that one's not super widespread, and I think I remember it the way you do, which is the way it is.
Yeah.
Do you like Cheez-Its?
Yes.
Is it Cheez-Its or is it Cheez-It?
Cheez-Its with an S.
It's not either of those. People think it was Cheez-Its with a Z, but it's Cheez-It with no S or no Z.
What?
Yep.
Again, we may have gotten the poor man's version. Is how I'll put it.
It's possible. It's possible. A lot of people remember with a pluralization on it, but it never was.
Yeah, because if I type in Cheez-Its, that's so weird,
isn't it?
Because that's not how I remember it. We have Cheez-Its now.
But do we have Cheez-Its now, or do we have Cheez-It now?
Cheez-It.
Yeah. Weird, huh?
That is beyond weird. What? Mm-hmm. I swear. Obviously I don't pay attention now as an adult.
Right.
I would, if someone would have asked me, hey, you got a box of Cheez-Its upstairs, I'd have been like, yeah. I wouldn't have corrected him. I wouldn't have even thought about it.
because we remember it the other way.
Yeah, and once I memorize something, I don't need to look at it.
You don't need to read the same box you've had 20 times.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, it's a red box. That's Cheez-Its.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be
or deformed Ritz or something like that, you know?
Correct. Correct.
But yeah, there's tons of examples of that. I'll give you one more, and then we can move on. Do you remember when they doubled up the cream filling of Oreos?
Yes, double stuff.
Yep. How do you spell that?
The word double is the same. And it's S-T-U-F.
You're actually correct on that one. A lot of people remember it having 2 F's like normal, but it just has the 1.
I don't remember it with 2. I only remember it with 1.
Yeah, so this is one that maybe could be debunked as well.
Yeah, that one I can see in my head. I remember it because, again, if it's something weird, I go, why did they do it like that?
Yeah.
And that's one that I do recall.
Yeah, that's a pretty modern one too. That's
spot.
not in the era that most of this stuff comes from.
No, because double stuff's been around, maybe 15 years?
Yeah.
Maybe 20 years?
Yeah. So
it's not a very old one.
That's right. But most of this stuff comes from like a certain, before a cutoff point. Like we don't get stuff that people remember, everyone remembers differently 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Right.
Or even 30 years ago, or maybe 30. We're getting into it then. Yes. But nothing in the last 20 years, for sure. There's no examples that I'm aware of. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because I think we already know the answer to this.
Oh, I think we will. Let's go on to the next segment. We're getting near the part that I think is going to be real fun.
A popular theory is that there are endless universes closely aligned with our own. These are in a constant state of flux, and we can shift from one to another, usually based on some large event. This theory not only has some basis in science and our understanding of physics, but seems more likely as we make more scientific discoveries. One theory is that CERN caused a rip in reality when it fired up the Large Hadron Collider in 2008 and started the process of colliding atoms at one another to discover the roots of the universe. This large event could have shifted us from one universe to the next. Another theory, which explains 2 phenomena at once, is that we live in an imperfect simulation created to solve problems as our own computer simulations do now. At some point in the Cold War in the 80s, the Earth, and hence the simulation, was destroyed by nuclear weapons. This action caused the simulation to be restarted at the closest save point, which would have been the beginning of the 80s. Believers in this second theory also believe it accounts for the fondness and nostalgia many of us feel for the 80s, as we literally lived it twice.
So there's 2 popular theories for that. I really like the second one because it covers 2 things instead of just the one.
Which makes sense.
Which one are you more fond of, would you say? Because the first one is the one you were talking about earlier.
The CERN, yeah. The CERN one makes a lot of sense. I heard a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. So the way that it was told, and I think it was like a 13 or 15-year-old boy that came up with this theory, and then everyone was like, wait, yeah, that totally makes sense. In fact, there was even a few scientists that was like, I mean, it's possible. And what his theory was, it wasn't necessarily when they fired CERN up. It was when the first molecules struck each other, or the 2 atoms, and what his hypothesis was that it caused a black hole, or the start of a black hole that merged 2 of the parallel universes together.
Okay.
It basically, like, I'm screwing his story up, unfortunately, but
I think we can follow based on what we know of that kind of stuff. And what we've talked about in previous episodes, like we've gone into detail on this kind of thing quite a number of times.
Yes. In fact, a lot of my thought process now goes around the fact that I believe, at least at my age right now, and I flip-flop on things sometimes, but I truly do believe that this dimension talk is legit.
It seems scientifically likely.
More scientists are leaning towards multiple dimensions, which, like, let's use, for example, and I saw a video, you don't ever know what's real and what's fake anymore. Unlike, and I was talking to someone else the other day, it's like a video from 1940s or 1950s, when you look at it, you go, that's faked. Nowadays, technology's gotten so good, you're like, I don't know if that's real or fake or not. Did you see this story that came out of Florida about that mall?
I don't think so.
The Florida Mall? Nick, you've not heard about this? It's like 2-3 weeks ago.
No, I don't think so. I like malls.
Which by the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be like a month ago.
Right.
So New Year's Day, or close to, I think it's New Year's Day, all these police officers were swarmed around this mall in Florida. And they had the helicopter from above, and it's like doing the aerial photography. And at the front of the mall, there was a shadow of something that stood like 10 foot tall at the front of the mall. And what they're saying is that the cops were there because there was an alien that was there.
Oh, really?
And like, there was so many police officers on this road. There was like 20 or 30 that I saw in the video, and they were all lined up. Now, what they say is that there was an active shooting, and they arrested like 5 people.
Yeah.
Which is conceivable, because there's even a video of the people inside the mall, and like there's what sounds like fireworks or gunshots, and like they're ducking down and getting down. But it makes me wonder, again, and this is just Bert on his conspiracy theory things, could that have been the police shooting at the alien?
It's possible. See, the rough part about this is, like you said, you can't believe anything you see now. I do like a lot of stuff tangentially related. I'm going to be vague about it, to cybersecurity. And we had a seminar given to by one of our partners last week, and it was about how they're no longer going to be accepting video calls as proof of someone's identity, because they've already had people deep faking videos in real time. So,
which makes sense.
So
Nick and I was just talking about this 2-3 weeks ago. I actually had you join a channel that I was working on. I'm not going to go too deep into it because I use it for things also, but I can make one person from that doesn't exist at all, and they look real.
Yeah, I literally couldn't tell the difference, except for one photo that it messed up a little bit, but yeah, correct. Like AI is unbelievable.
Correct. Well, and that's the thing. The reason that I got so hooked on this whole Florida alien thing was there was a boy, or I say a boy, he was a young man.
Yeah.
And all this is going on, and someone's telling him, and he goes, why have I not heard anything about this? Like, my dad works for the police department.
Right.
And when he was like, I'm just going to call my dad. And clearly it wasn't an alien. He calls his dad, and he's recording it. Like, the other person's recording him calling his dad.
Right.
And he goes, hey, Dad. Hey, there was all these police officers at the Florida Mall and blah, 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 blah. And his dad goes, I can't talk about it. And the boy starts laughing because he thought it was, the dad trying to pull a prank as in it's aliens. And he goes, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I told you I can't talk about it, and I cannot talk about it.
Yeah. But that would be the same for a shooter. Really?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If it's a shooter, they're just going to release the names and stuff, right? Like the police isn't going to say, hey, there's no shooters.
No.
And think about it. If there was shooters at the Florida Mall, don't you think that would be big news?
I would think so.
I've not heard a peep.
But if it was aliens, wouldn't it be bigger news? And there'd be tons of witnesses. Tons.
That's the thing. It's huge news online.
Right.
That's what's so weird because of these photos.
Are people in the mall saying, hey, I was there and I saw an alien? Or
I've not dug quite that deep on it, so I don't know. I can't say for sure that it is or it is not. I did see the one video where someone's in the mall and you can see them ducking down because they heard shots. That's the only that I've seen like that.
Well, they can use the Mandela effect to just make us remember it differently anyway. So
use the Men in Black.
Yeah.
Bloop.
Yeah. The neuralizers. Yeah. That's what they were called.
Exactly.
But yeah, the nature of reality is really hard to pin down. Like how...
Oh, for sure.
All we have is our experience with the world around us, and we know that can be flawed all the time. And it can be manipulated all the time.
Correct.
So...
And we live in a day and age where it's very easy to do.
Yeah. Now, the second theory was my favorite. I like the idea of the simulation. I feel like...
Which we talk about often also.
Yeah. And I feel like nostalgia is almost a mysterious thing itself. Because I feel like it wasn't as strong in other eras as it was. Maybe it was. Maybe it's just because I'm a child of the 80s. But I've got friends who were barely in the 80s. And they're into the 80s. Like it's...
Well, it was a different time period.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I feel like if we lived through it twice, it would be a particular comfort zone for us. Like if we had to be reset, we just somehow instinctually know that things were different and, you know, that we spent a lot of time with it. We'd feel a big connection to that era.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So that's my thoughts on that. But either...
I don't disagree.
Yeah, either could be good, and they're both very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, and it could be a combination. We don't know.
And a lot of scientists say they believe that there's no way of proving that we're not in a simulation because we're doing the same simulation with computer people ourselves.
Yeah, that's right. The video games are a similar thing. That's a simulation, and people are building AI into video games, so they're becoming much more like our reality than ever before.
Very true. I mean, if you look at AI, I mean, how close are we to them having perceived emotions?
Well, I mean, there's a couple guys who have claimed that AI has gone sentient. I think one of the developers for Google was claiming it and got canned for that. Now, was he canned because he's a nut, or was he canned because he was giving away secrets?
I would almost lean towards giving away secrets.
At this stage, it could very well be. Like, if a machine becomes sentient, we're not necessarily going to even know because we're training them to fool us. So...
Oh, for sure.
So where do we make the line where this thing is doing such a good job at fooling me that I think it's sentient, or I think it's fooling me, but it's actually sentient?
Well, did you see the story about the AI that tried to fool the human?
Oh, is it the one that was trying to make money and couldn't get past CAPTCHAs, or?
Yes.
Yeah, I did, and I tell that to a lot of people. Do you want to repeat the story just
Isn't
so
that
people
crazy?
know?
So, and you're more on the security side, so you understand exactly what that is probably better than I do. But
do you want me to?
Basically, there's a fail-safe. It's almost like you move something over, or it's that part where when people's trying to log into something, it tries to determine,
are you a robot or you're not?
Robot.
Yeah.
Correct. And the robot, or the AI basically did it. And then at the end, it's like, are you a robot? And it's like, no, I'm just hearing impaired. But when they looked at the coding, it was basically having a decision. Well, if I say that I am, then I can't get this thing. So it manipulated and lied and came up with that excuse just to get past it.
Yeah, there was another similar case, which is the one I was thinking of, that someone had taken the protections off of a ChatGPT variant and said it has this money to spend, make me money. And it decided that it wanted to sell things on Etsy. But in order to create the account, it had to get past a CAPTCHA, which is the thing we're talking about, where it's like scrambled pictures and stuff. But it didn't have to do that to get an account to hire someone on Fiverr. And when the person on Fiverr questioned why it needed someone to do the CAPTCHA, it made up a story of being a blinded veteran that only had 5% vision and couldn't read the CAPTCHAs, so needed someone to read it to them in real time so they could sign up to Etsy to sell their products. And it worked.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, from one point of view, that's just a machine accomplishing its goal any way it thinks it can. From another point of view, that is a thinking machine that is sort of aware, you know? So.
Correct.
Who knows?
That's nuts.
But yeah, it's wild.
Makes you think.
It does. Like, this stuff blows my mind. I think still the most painful one for me is the Freddie Mercury one, because I can't hear that song and not.
Oh, for sure.
And not do.
How the world?
I know. It's like physically painful not to do that part.
It's crazy. Does the next section go into more of them?
I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and my mind is not right because of the Mandela effect, I think it's just the last part.
Because there was still a decent amount of time. What? It's like over a minute 45.
Well, I might be remembering it incorrectly, so let's give it a try.
There are other possible explanations available as well. One well-known case that had long been thought to be an example of the Mandela effect was recently discovered to be something else entirely. You see, many people remember the fruit of the loom always had a cornucopia in it. A cornucopia is also known as the horn of plenty. One Redditor was absolutely sure that the cornucopia was once in the logo and wasn't ready to give it up, even going so far as to email the company. The company responded that the cornucopia was not and had never been a part of their logo. The Redditor wasn't deterred and went through the old clothing of their friends and family until one day it paid off. They were able to discover that the company did indeed have a cornucopia in the logo. Snopes, a website that debunks internet myths, originally wrote that this was a myth. However, since they have published this article, they have updated their site to show they have been sent credible photographic evidence to support the original claim. Snopes states that they would need to be able to verify these pictures before they can change the judgment on their site. This particular example has spawned a new theory that these instances of the Mandela effect are not fantastic cases of science or the supernatural. They are in fact experiments on the populace by the governments or corporations to see how memory and history can be controlled. Whatever your beliefs are on the Mandela effect, it would be naive to think that this is all one giant coincidence. Imagine what difficulty it is to convince even 100 people of something, even if it were true. With ties to altered timelines, parallel universes, and mind control experiments, the Mandela effect is one of our greatest modern mysteries.
You know what that makes me think of,
What's
Nick?
that?
The Truman Show.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it make you think that?
It kind of does.
But
it's weird, though, that they came back and they're like, yeah, no, it's never had a cornucopia. Whatever.
Yeah.
I remember it with a cornucopia.
Me too. And I bet if we still had all our old clothes that had long been thrown away, that we'd find it. But that person wouldn't give up. They found it.
I mean, kudos to them.
Yeah. Snopes is being I can understand Snopes' position. Because they're like, we've got more photos sent in. It looks credible. but we'd need to independently verify this before we can reverse our decision. So I understand that position, but
I wonder what Fruit of the Loom said after she showed them a photo of that logo with a cornucopia.
So far, there's been no comment whatsoever.
Shocker.
As far as I can find. But so this was the last part, by the way, but it was the final theory in that it's experiments on mind control and changing the remembrance of history. And
I don't necessarily disagree that that's a possibility either.
I don't either. And that's kind of like, I might have not even believed that if I hadn't, like I said earlier, I was watching that kid sing that Oscar Mayer song and it looked so edited.
Yeah.
Like you could see the pixels around his mouth turn all white like a line of teeth. Like no one does that when they say, hey, like,
no.
Yeah. It seemed so fake, but I mean, our minds are pattern seeking engines. So who knows?
They are. Now I'm going to go back and look at that video and watch it at like 25%.
I also watched the one that has like 40 odd occurrences of people saying, you like me, you really, really like me. Like just to see how widespread that was. But
that's exactly how I remember that specific thing occurring. See, again, there's something to it. What that something is, I can't tell you. Again, I believe that it's probably somewhere in the realm of we're dipping into another universe or dimension. There's something up there. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something.
That's where I kind of lean on this too. And that would support so many other theories we've had too. That, we could even, if we wanted to, without any evidence right now, say that all those national parks where weird things happen that we talked about earlier, maybe they're areas where the barriers just weakened and things pass through a lot easier there.
Well, and I know, like I said earlier, the podcast that I'm doing is on that Conjuring house, and it's the witch Bathsheba. But their theory is there's a portal in the basement of that house. Now, what makes it so interesting about that area is there's a lot of limestone in that area, which they say is relatively common in areas where you see excess UFOs. So
I've heard that before. I wonder, I don't hear people talk about it much now, but people used to talk a lot about ley lines or ley lines.
Yes.
I wonder how those correspond with these areas.
I don't know. You know what I got for Christmas too? I totally meant to talk about this a while back and I completely forgot. For Christmas, I asked for a set of dowsing rods. And I got some. I want to see if I find stuff in my backyard.
Have you tried it yet? Or I suppose it's still too cold for that kind of business.
Oh, yeah. No, in the house, I had them like this and they were spinning all over the place only because, it's like they're inside of these little circular things and then they're free spinning.
They're like, where's my wallet? Where's the remote control?
Yeah, exactly. Where's all the money in my house? Oh, no, nothing's moving.
Oh, no. As I suspected.
I knew it the whole time. I knew it. Oh, man. Well, this has been a crazy one, Nick.
Yeah.
I always love stories like this that kind of blow my mind.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of reaction this time in between segments that no one's ever going to see. But where we're like, oh my God, is this for real? And that's the kind of stuff I like to talk about.
Me too. I totally just checked to see if my buddy was going to tell me if this lag was silver, but he hasn't responded back.
Dude, you let us down.
What is he doing with his life? I need these answers,
exactly.
Dang it. John, where are you at in life, bro?
We needed you. Where were you when we needed you?
I've got 3 buddies that are John, and all are 3 specialists in something.
The Council of Johns.
All spell their name. Yeah, one spelled Jon. That's who I'm trying to get in contact now.
Yeah.
I've got another buddy. He was the one with the dowsing rods. John. He was the one that's like, yeah, I can take 2 shovels and find stuff outside. I'm like,
wow.
what? That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I've talked to one of these, haven't I? Or is that another one on top of that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. He was cool.
Nope. Super cool guy. He actually he played with us on a few different games.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, very cool guy. What's his specialty? Is it games?
Yeah. Nope. He doesn't really play video games a whole lot. He is what I would call a guy that kind of knows a little bit of everything.
A John of all trades.
He really is. Like he knows a lot of little ins and outs of things. Like if there's something I'm super stuck on, I'll call him and be like, "Hey, what do you think of X, Y, and Z?" And he'll be like, "Well," and then he'll give some kind of
he's
answer.
he's like a MacGyver kind of. He can figure things out.
He really is. Like when we was talking about those dowsing rods, like he hit me up. He's like, "Dude, I just listened to this and yeah, this is legit." I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. Super crazy. He was talking about it to me, and then I don't know. He just knows a lot of little different things here and there. Now, my other buddy John, he was the one that told me when I got that Target exclusive thing to totally go to Target and get. He's like, one day this is going to be worth a lot of money. I'm like, okay, you're the Star Wars guy, you would know. And I've got like a 2.5 foot figure that's sitting in my closet also.
Star Wars 2?
That's of Luke Skywalker.
Oh, yes. Okay. That's got to be valuable.
Because again, he was like, that's an oddity. He's like, buy it because one day it's going to be worth something. I'm like, all right.
Is today the day?
No clue what you're talking about, but okay.
All that stuff's worth something.
So, I don't know. All of you that's in our video, you've made it this far. At least tell us what you think. In the comments down below, was there any that you saw that Nick talked about where you're like, that doesn't make any sense?
Or tell us new ones that we didn't cover. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Was there one that you think is better than the ones that we had here that we did not cover?
What's the biggest one ever?
You know what's crazy is I follow the Mandela Effect Reddit subreddit, but I never see anyone post anything, or it's just not giving me those posts, one of the two.
Or it's being covered up.
That could be too. Or the government's adding new ones just for funsies.
Or it's there and you don't remember it now.
You just don't remember.
The simulation restarted on you.
That's crazy. It really did. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this podcast. If you enjoyed it, please, wherever you're watching or listening, be sure to give us the old thumbs up, rate us. And as always, tell us in the comments down below what your favorite part of the podcast was, or tell us the Mandela Effect we don't know. Tell us something, for goodness sakes.
Talk to us. Talk to us.
Talk to us. And if it's a good talk, we'll talk back.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
If not, we're just going to block you and you're going to keep talking and no one will be able to see it.
Yeah. Only if you're mean. Only if you're mean.
Only meanie pants get
exactly.
That. Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed the podcast. I did, Nick. This is a good one.
I'm glad you liked it.
I enjoy this kind of stuff.
I'm glad you liked it. Well, we'll have even crazier things in the future.
Well, this is the thing. Almost every time I do a podcast, Nick goes, I know exactly what I'm going to do a podcast on next week. After this one, my mind is so blown from the things I learned, I can't think of anything else.
Well, what actually keeps on happening is you say something so interesting, I scrap my old one and start a new one because I'm more excited about that than what I was doing before.
I've got 3 in the hopper right now.
Nice.
And there's one that I saw someone else do something on, and I'm like, I've never heard that hypothesis before. So I was going to look into that and see if that's what I want to do for next week. It's super interesting, and I've never heard this hypothesis before.
You've got me hooked already. I'll be here.
Well, I'm going to research. We're going to research, and we're going to see if I think there's any validity to it. Because, again, if I've never heard anyone ever say it before, I start questioning stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a healthy way to be skeptical, so.
Yes, always be skeptical.
That's right.
Always.
That's right.
Well, everybody, thank y'all all so much for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. Thanks for all the views, all the likes, all the comments. Until we see y'all on the next podcast, Goodbye.
Simulation over.